World War I was a conflict that spanned continents, saw empires fall and the loss of countless millions of lives. It also sparked a technological revolution in warfare, armies starting the war on horseback, armed with swords and revolvers, and ending it with planes, tanks, and Zeppelin air raids. As the commemoration of the centenary of World War I continues, DICE, an award-winning game studio from Sweden, have set the latest release of their hugely popular Battlefield franchise in World War I. It's called Battlefield 1. But how do you go about creating a game set in a war so long ago, and of which there's not enough actual footage to fully rely on for recreation? I packed my bag and headed off to Stockholm in Sweden to find out from the developers themselves just how they brought World War I to life. I'm here with Mr. Battlefield himself. I'm here with Lars. Going back to World War I, how did it all come about? What was it about World War I that kind of drew you in?
Basically, in order to put Battlefield forward, push it into the future, we decided to go back, which is kind of odd. But I think it all started with us having built kind of contemporary modern warfare for such a long time. And as always, we want to challenge ourselves. Of course, we want to please the community out there and make new cool things, but also look at kind of how can we bring new gameplay into Battlefield. And that's where we started to look at all the different eras from the Roman Empire into the future. And there had been one thought there for many years, and that was all about the Great War. We had strong vocal minds in the studio who said kind of this is the game, already back in 2008, I think. You know, it fits Battlefield. This was the dawn of all-out war. It's the blueprint for modern war, basically everything we built ever after within the Battlefield franchise. So that's where we started to see that there's so much to it. And me, might be that I'm a Swede or lazy in school, but I knew so much more about the Second World War, for example. So when we started to scratch the surface, we found out so much and learned so much in such a short time, and really realized that there's so many stories to be told here.
One of the big things for me about World War I is just the sheer number of people who died, and everyone kind of knows it's sort of this quite futile thing, all these people died. Looking at these personal tales is quite exciting because, I mean, that's how we're going to learn, that's how we're going to understand it, through understanding these were real people and real situations, right?
It is, and for us, I think putting a few faces on these different destinies that we reflect upon in this game, and also adding additional context to events that took place, hopefully, just like it did to us, will spark the community's interest in finding out more, since this truly shaped the world we live in.
What was one of the biggest kind of surprises for you that you learned about World War I through making the game?
Everyone talks about the Second World War and how it changed the world, but in so many ways the Great War did enormous changes, both in kind of political, and empires fell, and it was really the old world, you know, marching armies in colorful uniforms, more when you think about Waterloo and those types of battles, that then suddenly during just a few years kind of transferred into mechanized warfare. There were tanks, there were planes, there were airships, there were naval battles.
So we're keeping everything historically accurate. You know, you're going to have to look through a lot of different kind of source material. What were some of the kind of biggest sort of pools of material that you used for the game?
We've gone out of our way to find the correct material, since Battlefield in the end is always rooted in reality, and then we depict it through the lens of Battlefield. In the end, it's a game. But you know, we have dug up old uniforms, we have recorded weapons firing, biplanes have been recorded, even going, you know, flying with little drones to scan the real locations, to recreate it into the tiniest little detail.
Edward!
Sir.
Townsend. Come on, you miss all the fun. I've been looking at your papers.
Don't worry about me, sir. I'm ready to do my bit for king and country.
Listen, son, you find forward and reverse when you're told you'll do all right for me. Grab those, would you? Come and meet Big Bess. Woman of your dreams.
The single-player campaign sets the tone for the whole experience. I caught up with the guys behind the story mode to find out more. I'm here with the guys behind the single-player campaign for Battlefield 1 because I want to know more about what the story is behind it all.
We really want to do something that would embrace the kind of grounded nature of World War I and also see a variety of different locations, a variety of different types of action, different identities inside that conflict.
How did you go about sort of finding those stories?
People don't have a very good idea in their head about what World War I is. They kind of think trenches, they think mud, they think grimness, they think horror and that kind of stuff. And actually there's a lot of different things that happen in the war. And so one of the things we wanted to do is kind of pull out some of those moments that people are like, no way, that actually happened. Like in Italy, there was a huge war between Italy and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and there were more people, more soldiers killed by avalanches in that war than there were actually by bullets, because they used to set off avalanches above the other troops' lines.
We've seen every possible angle in World War II. World War I has kind of, no one's really kind of got in there yet.
I think that there isn't really the definitive media of World War I, and I think that's something that proved really attractive to us, because this would give us a whole bunch of new gameplay scenarios, a whole bunch of things that weren't familiar, that were new. And you know, as a developer, that's scary at first because you don't have a model to point to and go, it should be just like that. But the value of that is once you've created it, people can look at it and see it as enormously original and distinctive, and it stands out.
Talk us through some of the places that we go in the single player campaign. Where are we going to and who are we being?
Okay, one of our war stories focuses on 2 aviators over the Western Front. This is an American volunteer by the name of Clyde Blackburn who gets teamed up with an English engineer by the name of Seamus Wilson, and they're a team working this brand new aircraft, the Bristol F2, which has just been deployed to the front. This takes place in bloody April in 1917.
Welcome aboard! I'm Wilson, by the way. You must be George Rackham.
Sure, I'm Rackham. I'm your guy.
Obviously, aviation and war is it's a major part of the warfare experience, especially in World War I. But really, it's about 2 people who are friends testing their levels of trust with each other.
There's other ones that we're exploring in there as well, like Zara from Nothing Is Written, who's fighting to free her country from what was the tyranny of the Ottoman Empire at that point. So she's got a very different take on this thing.
Soon all that you know and all that you love will be ashes. You will all be free to die.
And that's the thing, is getting all these different mixes and motivations that are going on in the different episodes. Just exploring little different themes and seeing if there's something in there that kind of tugs at you and pulls you towards one thing or another. And it does affect different people in different ways. You know, we are seeing that, like, you know, the prologue is really hitting people quite hard sometimes.
We're surrounded! We have to hold this line!
Been crying and stuff, which is good in some ways because it means that people are taking it quite seriously.
In this game, you'll see people behind their lines, for example, and they don't know you're there. And they might be doing something simple like peeling potatoes or playing a record or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you really want to start a fight with these guys? These are real people, just like you are.
Do you think that people are going to kind of play the game, and although ultimately it's an entertainment product, it's there to entertain, that they might actually sort of come away and think, I want to kind of know a little bit more about this because there's a lot here that I didn't know about?
Someone I was talking to just last week said that his sister works in a library in the US, and that she's had a lot of kids coming in trying to get books about World War I and learning about the era as a result of having heard about this game. There's been a great amount of discovery for us as a team, thinking that we had original ideas and then finding out these things actually happened, or better ideas than what we originally had. How
do you figure out what you keep as perfectly correct and what you kind of, Hollywood fudge a little bit to kind of jazz it up?
Gameplay really has to win. We're making an entertainment experience. If there was, for example, a particular story about a certain corner of the war we were very interested in and inspired, but we didn't feel it would make a gameplay experience, ultimately it wouldn't be one we would choose.
Were you guys aware of the sort of centenary when you were making it? Was that something you were actually aiming towards, or was it just kind of sort of a coincidence that these things kind of came in parallel?
I think it is more happenstance than anything that it has happened at this particular moment in time. I think it makes it even more poignant that things are going on. You know, obviously there's loads of different things happening in the UK and there's stuff happening across Europe where people are commemorating everything that went on. I think what that did do is it definitely sharpened our sense of we need to do this in the right way and we need to do this with the right tone and treat it with the right respect.
Clean out all the German guns!
Finally getting a chance to sit down and have a go at the single player campaign, and the first thing that strikes me upon loading this up is just the level of detail. I mean, it's incredible. I wanted to have a chat and find out a little bit more about how they make such beautifully realised worlds, so I went to go and talk to the world director. I'm here with Danny Berlin, who actually creates the world of Battlefield. So let's start at the very, very beginning. What are we looking at here? What is this on your screen?
This is basically the editor view. This is what it looks like when we build it. There's always a process first before you start building it in these editors. You start on paper. You start in discussions, you start talking about, okay, what should it be? Should it be like, you know, close quarters? Should it be long range? Should it be a lot of vehicles? And once you have that kind of template, we roll it out to all these talented people here that actually sit down and build the maps. We have a big chunk of artists and designers in this room that just work very hard to make sure that these things get out. So once you have that, you start sitting out the base layer of the terrain. And once you have the base layer of the terrain in, you start working with these road splines to get the roads correct. And then you start deciding, okay, we need one area, for example, that is more dense for infantry focus. And then you have, like, for example, this village right here. You place that, and then, you know, you start just shaping the world based on the different game modes that we have.
All of that detail with something set in World War I means a lot of research. Where did you go to find out all this kind of information?
Basically, we have two guys in the office that was kind of like the I would call them like almost the historians. Yeah. That has been kind of the backbone of the authenticity of the world that we've been creating over these past couple of years. We've sent our artists and our teams across the world to gather references and take photo references and geometry and everything, and then we can import it into the editor and into what you see right now.
Who decides where Battlefield goes? Like into the future, into the past? Like who makes that decision?
That is definitely a collaborative effort, I'd say. When we go into creating a new Battlefield, there are certain key pillars that we know we need to deliver on. Dynamic world, all-out warfare, all these things, and we look at different settings. But for this particular game, Battlefield 1, we have been wanting to make World War I internally in the studio for many years, and it's really been a passion project for us to be able to do it. And again, we had these two guys in the studio, Martin Copperhead and Stefan Strandberg, that were really intent on making this happen, and they did a lot of research and they did like awesome presentations, and they just kind of sold it. And we were just like, this is it, this works perfectly. So once that was kind of rolled out and we knew what setting we were doing, then we just like, you know, just open up the books and, you know, start Googling like where did this location take place, and then look at all the different locations and see like, oh, this, you know, this forest would be perfect for, you know, an infantry focused, really almost claustrophobic, dense map. It's like, okay, perfect, that goes in the package. And then another one is just like, oh yeah, we should definitely go up to the, you know, the high Alps, and we should make a map, you know, with one low road, and then one that was just like a mountain goes up, so you have like a very high altitude versus very low altitude, and then we go on, you know, look at different locations in Italy and say like, this is the location, this is perfect, and then we just like make it on that one. And
do you create kind of like one map to start with? How does it work?
We have a bunch of designers and artists in this room right now. And what I do as the manager of the world group is basically set the big picture. Of like, these are the types of maps that we want, and then the amount of teamwork that goes into building these things is immense. Just on this map alone, there has been multiple people.
So how many people would have done this one or been involved?
God, I don't even know. There's just so many things that go into it. I mean, audio goes in as well, you know, you know, if you're inside a trench and you shoot, you have a different type of sound on your gun. If you're running over mud, you will splashes from your boots. So if you're running on gravel, you will hear gravel. So it's just like so many people that go in and just make sure that these things come together.
The Battlefield titles consistently win awards for their sound. I spoke to the team behind Battlefield 1 to find out how much of a challenge it was to create a realistic World War I soundscape. Was it a hugely mammoth task going all the way back to World War I?
It was a big challenge because we had to do something different, but it's really something old. Also, we had no sort of cliches that we have to follow. Like, there basically aren't no World War I war movies. We can sort of almost define what World War I sounds like.
Starting with Foley, for instance, the materials in World War I were very different compared to modern materials like Velcro and nylon and stuff like that. So we had to really go and find the original materials and use those.
We got these hobnail boots and all the leather things and that, and when we made the entire package and started to get that in, that really changed how the game sounded.
So it's kind of a manual sound design where you're actually doing the materials rather than doing recording techniques. And just this bag sounds boring or bad. We switched out for another bag and like a spade holster or something. Maybe that makes an interesting sound, or different belts. So we actually do try changing around and playing with different materials to get the sort of feeling that we want.
We couldn't wear anything modern when we did the recordings, because then it would suddenly like, oh, what's that nylon sound?
So you had to like go into like a cloakroom and kind of D21st century yourself, like take everything off. Was it hard to find all this stuff? Where did you go?
The Army Museum here in Stockholm has a lot of old weaponry. There is a guy here in Sweden that builds World War I airplanes, triplanes, biplanes.
That was lucky.
Yeah, and he flies them as well.
Whoa, look at that!
So where's the coolest place you've got to go to record sound?
Idaho.
Yeah, well, we went to Idaho.
So you had to go all the way to Idaho just for sound? Is there nothing you could replicate here? That seems expensive.
They have liberal gun laws in America. So it's a lot easier doing shoot, and of course Idaho is open, and you can do a lot of open spaces and mountains.
And they have mountains and forests and fields, and they have everything there.
Kind of like imagine you guys like backpacking through just the outside somewhere with like a checklist of like, right, we need someone to kick a tree. All right, you go do that. Right, now we need someone to fall in a puddle. Off you go.
We do that. We have this favorite playground where we live next to the old radio tower, where there's a playground with a like wooden fortress with sand.
Are you kicking kids off a playground to record sound?
We have to go there when the kids are not there.
Nighttime.
Marie, did you have anything that you learned about World War I?
Like the development was so quick, and the mix between all like really medieval stuff towards the new, and also you had like horses and things. I think that was real cool. So it felt like a good mix of all sorts of things that made, you know, the game quite varied to play as well.
Well, look, thank you so much for talking to us. I mean, I could talk to you guys all day about everything that you've done, but I will let you get back to enjoying your moderate freedom. It was really great to go over and meet the team at DICE to see just how truly passionate they are about this project. The Battlefield franchise is renowned for its attention to detail, and it's clear after talking to them that Battlefield 1 is no exception. Video games have a unique capacity to engage with a younger audience, and with World War I moving beyond living memory, perhaps Battlefield 1 provides a new way of understanding this piece of history, and maybe, just maybe, inspire its players to find out more.